Welcome to the bench. Horace, how we doing, buddy?
Pretty good.
Heck yeah.
Pretty good.
Heck yeah. Got a great show for you today. Got a very crafty show for you today. We're going to be talking
Hmm.
about sword construction with Sir Glass and Sir Gorg, which I think is going to be pretty sweet. But before that, go ahead. You're going to say something.
No,
No,
that
okay.
was just me being excited.
Thank you, Nachos D Bold, for subscribing. Or is that Nachos like Nachos Debold or Nachos the Bold? I don't know. What
Nachos Diebold.
Nachos Debold?
It's like Da Bears.
Thank you, Gorg, for subscribing. uh, what events we got coming up?
We got a lot of events coming up. This weekend, the rescheduled Wolfpack Cookout is happening in Bloomington, Illinois. I unfortunately can't make it to that. I was excited to go to the first one, but it got rained out. Um, but it's not too bad. My mom's coming into town. We're gonna do a bunch of cooking and go on nature walks. It'll be fun.
So you're not
Um,
invited to the cookout.
what?
You're not invited to the cookout.
I I guess
That's like a meme thing, right? I don't know.
yeah, it is a mean thing, but we are invited to the cookout. My
Oh
mom
yes, I
just
know.
doesn't want to go to
She just
Belgarth.
doesn't want
Yeah.
to.
Um. Anyways, uh, do we wait? Is Numenor Spring Closer May 3rd? Why did I think that it was actually the weekend after?
I don't know why you thought that.
My calendar ability is very poor in case nobody's noticed. Anyways, 2 weeks after the Wolfpack Cookout is Olympics. That will be very exciting. I'll definitely be there for at least Saturday. Looking forward to that. Always a great event.
I might be there.
Basically the only time in Belgarth, I guess Armageddon and Oktoberfest, we like for real do tournaments now, but it's been the constant tournament event over the years.
You know,
Um,
you know what's funny as an I'm not an outsider as a newcomer
mhm.
perspective. So like I always go to Geddon, I always go to Ockfest,
Oh yeah, Winter Wars too. That's a
and
good
I
point.
always go to
Sorry.
Winter War, or I try to always go to Winter War, and I go to Olympics a lot. So I've
Hmm.
always thought like, man, there's just so many tournaments at every Bell event all the time. They're like
That's
nuts for
wild.
tournaments. That's not the
Yeah,
case.
I Armageddon I'm like veering off topic wildly now, but
Yeah.
um, I go to so many little ones that usually don't have tournaments, so I don't really think of Belgarth as being tournament heavy. Um, Beltane is the week after Olympics. That's down in Monte Bell in Tennessee. That's always a good time.
There's
Um,
tournaments at that too.
that's true. Oh my God, they have tournament. There is tournaments at every event.
Every Bell event.
I just don't go to the good tournament events. I could. I should. But anyways, I won't be going. Um, I got lots of stuff going on. May 3rd, that same weekend, if you aren't traveling to Tennessee, in Champaign, Illinois, we are having Numenor Spring Closer. That'll be a lot of fun. Um, little mini event. I don't think there's any tournaments. Maybe now there's going to be one. There's totally going to be one because I said that. Um, God damn it. You're right, because last year I didn't even get out of the Iron Man for single sword, and I was really disappointed in myself. Um, although it actually turned out that it was because the people that I was beating weren't going and telling the person that I was beating them, but that's okay.
That's not okay. That's
Yeah,
horrible.
no, it was kind of like some of the people that were supposed to herald couldn't do it suddenly, so they were prepared, and then things went haywire. Um, but after that is SKBC in Missouri. I'm very excited. We signed up 2 weeks ago, live on the bench. That'll be a lot of fun. Really looking forward to that. So,
I am not going to be knighted at SKBC this year. I made an announcement. It's no big deal. There's no drama or anything. The knighthood just wasn't coming together, and which is nobody's fault. It just wasn't coming together in a way that I was like, this is how I want to remember it, you know. And so I was like, I would rather postpone it so that it's something, so it's a good memory instead of something that I'm like, oh, this could have been more than it is, So just throwing that out there. I know I've been browbeating everybody into going since I've been getting knighted, but that's not happening anymore. So
Everybody should like go to SKBC.
they should.
Period though.
Should just go
Especially for Belgrim who live in the Midwest, and it's going to be in the Midwest, and it's an easy one to go to. You're not getting a plane ticket out somewhere.
Exactly. And it's not just the instruction too. It's just the fighting, the ditching is just so good.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. Let's talk merch. We've got bench merch. I'm currently wearing a bench t-shirt. These are surprisingly inexpensive. They're so inexpensive. What are they, like $13 or $15 or something?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I think it's like $15 or something.
We also got...
I have my bench Stein and I forgot it downstairs.
No, I got mine. The Stein. We've got our surprisingly good quality. I was shocked. I thought it would... Because it looks like, in the picture, it just looks like this cheap ceramic thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying it's not a cheap ceramic thing, but it's like glossy and like, I'd drink out of it. I don't know.
I really appreciate that the bench logo is on the front, so if you use it in like a bar fight, they're like definitely gonna see the logo as you hit them with it.
That went in a direction I was not expecting.
Playing too much Dungeons and Dragons.
We've also got new to the bench lineup. We've got, I don't have a picture up here. We've got the bench fighting pants, which are brown and have like a little bench logo on the right butt cheek, and some little birds or something on the left leg. I wore them to Punic Wars, and they held up just fine. I had to take them off halfway through because it got really hot in there, but those were a success. We've also got the bench underwear, which has the bench logo on the butt.
Love it.
And on the front, by the weenie part, it says red, because if you have bench underwear, you're packing a red weapon. And we've also got the bench bikini, which has both of our faces on the front, which somebody has purchased.
Good.
Somebody has purchased, so coming to an event near you. Hell yeah.
That's amazing.
Let's meet our guests. Welcome to the bench, Sir Gorg. Welcome to the bench, Sir Glass. Happy to have you.
Howdy.
Hello.
How's everybody doing?
We're going to take a look at our agenda today. And this is all about making swords. So, number one on the agenda. Who are Gorg and Glass? What is the history of sword making? How to build a sword? How you build your swords? And let's talk tech. I can explain a few of those real quick. So we're going to talk. A history of sword making is pretty, apparent or self-evident what it is. This was an interesting thing that we teased out of the agenda. How to build a sword is how to teach you guys at home how to build a sword. If you don't know how to build one, here's a great way of doing it. Maybe a great resource for a new person. Maybe for an established person, this is a way to up your game a little bit. And then when we say how you build your swords, we're talking to Gorg and Glass. So like Gorg has a shop behind him. He's got all these different tools and neat things that he can use to make swords that we don't have access to. Glass is a mad scientist and does all, I don't know what kind of mystery dust Glass puts in his swords, but I'm really interested to find out. So the second category is for, this isn't a way to teach other people how to build their swords. It's like, let's take a look at Gorg and Glass tech and see how it's made and how it's different than a sword you would build at home. And then let's talk tech is we're just going to say, all right, where's making swords going? What are some interesting projects in the future? Let's talk just some of the real neat kind of tech stuff that we only really get access to by having these amazing artisans on the show.
Crossbows.
We ready for this? Uh,
Oh yeah.
Gorg, I have a
Oh,
question
yeah.
for you.
Sure.
Who are you? Let's start in the beginning. How did you get introduced to foam fighting?
So I got introduced originally to foam fighting. I used to do a lot of airsoft, and I ended up doing a side job working with a company that put on very niche type airsoft games. Like one was based on the Fallout universe, or Roadside Picnic, which is like the Zone, kind of like Stalker, things like that. We did all kinds of weird stuff, and as such, we needed weird rules. And like, it doesn't really matter the lore if you're all just going out there with the same guns and shooting each other, and there's no difference, right? So it became very LARPy. And so in the Fallout one, you kind of started with like low powered guns or springers or even melee. And so we were like, well, what's melee look like? We have these rubber training swords, and that's it. And so I get on the internet and I'm kind of like scouring around trying to figure out how things are made or who even uses them. And, I had seen like role models and like other things like
Oh,
that. So I
yeah.
started looking up like layer. These are the things I knew about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I made a lot of PVC, pool noodle, duct tape things, took them to this game. And it just so happens about 8 to 10 of the players were like, hey, we sword fight all the time. It's this other game called Belagorth.
hmm
I got a bug up my ass and I wanted to go like check that out. And then like I get there and it's like 15 dudes in a park. And yeah, I mean, that's how I got introduced to it, was like other airsoft
Yeah.
players that like played Bell.
That's wild.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that was the first touch of it. And then I had we went on the road and we did this airsoft thing at conventions where it was like indoors but low powered.
hmm
And one of them was Gen Con Indy. And we
Oh,
all
yeah.
know who goes to Gen Con Indy
hmm
is Sir Gallen and Piper and them from Forge Foam. And so I didn't know them, but we ended up trading a bunch of like airsoft uniforms for Boffer weapons to bring back for the next Fallout game.
That's awesome.
And yeah, so I always tell Gallen, I said he kind of secondhandedly got me into the game. And yeah, no, we've had a great relationship ever since I hit the scene.
Hell yeah. And so what year was that you first got in?
2010 was when I first found out about it.
Okay.
I want to say very early 2011. I like started playing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
My first event was one we put on down here called Summer Slaughter in the middle of August in Florida. We have the best ideas ever. And it was like 200 people. So I was like, yo, okay. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was crazy.
This is your first event. Like, you put on your first event and you get 200 people. That's
Well, I didn't put it
crazy
on. I
turnout.
just was like friends with the people and like,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Well, what it was is there's an airsoft game in Ocala,
Yeah.
40 minutes from where this was. I had an obligation to go run the airsoft game, got done running it, went over there, threw a bunk bed mattress next to a fire, slept, and then like fought the next day, and
yeah.
pretty much until I couldn't move, and then like had to go back to the airsoft place to get all my props I had brought.
oh,
In the middle of the, I had to break in and get all my stuff and then take it home because nobody else had a truck or I had a cargo van.
wild.
And so it was a lot, but it was like a great first out for sure.
That's so good.
What do you still do airsoft?
I do it from time to time. I picked it back up during lockdown because it was about the only thing that was like open. And it's ranged and you're outside and it was safe enough. And so like I would go play every now and again then. And then there's this cool indoor place in Jacksonville. I do what my son wants to do. If he wants to go play airsoft, I go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I try it. Like we like a lot of the same things, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And And so like if he wants to go do that, we'll wrap up a couple of his friends and go do that. You know what I mean?
That's
Yeah.
fun.
But now that everything's back in full swing, it's when do you have time? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
When did you open the shop? Oh, is the name of real quick? Mongoose asks, is the name of the place Battalion?
Yeah, Battalion. Yep. Battalion's really fun. That's the indoor place in Jacksonville. And they've actually been around since what 06, 07 when I like no, I guess it was 2010. They were around back then when I was playing. So it's cool to see that they're still there.
Stellar
That's so
says,
cool.
"I love you, Gorg."
Stellar is a Nadar. Do you know what a Nadar is?
Uh-uh.
Plant man. Think of like kind of like Ints,
Okay.
but not.
Mhm.
And so is Mongoose has been knighted. He was knighted at Winter War, but he was my squire. He's also a Nadar. So they're plant people. That's pretty awesome.
Nice.
They have like ghillie suits and like really cool like swampy like
That's
like tree people.
Cool.
Yeah. But Stellar's one of our locals here. He moved out this way with Cord, and they were both from California.
Nice.
okay.
When did you get into selling, essentially full time?
So once I met those guys, they were in the process of starting a unit, a fighting unit,
Mhm.
and everyone just kind of made their own. Gallon was the closest, and we had some stuff from him, which was awesome. But you always kind of want to tinker and play around.
Mm-hmm.
And because my background before the housing market pop of 2008 was carpentry, I had a full garage full of carpentry tools,
Oh, wow.
like already. And, in your head, you're like, I wonder if I could run foam through that or if the saw's going to grab it and pull it down into the mechanism,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're playing around. First we just used a yardstick and a like a snap-off knife.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then to route the foam out, we would like bend it and then like cut the round part off and like hope that it was good enough to fit the core in.
Yeah.
And because I didn't have like an inverted router table.
Mhm.
Okay, hold on. What was the question?
When
Oh.
did you start selling full time?
So when the housing market popped, I started working at a place called JEA, which is local sewer power water. And from 7 to 4, I would do that. And that's about the time I started playing. I started making things just for the team. And then that kind of spilled over to like, hey, we really like this stuff your team's using, word of mouth, make me a sword here, a sword there. And so I was doing it to pay for the hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Go to an event, make $150, and I'm paying for my gas and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And happy wife, happy life. If my hobby doesn't cost money, then it's fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it just kind of became word of mouth. And for 2 years, like I said, from 7 to 4, I was working a day job. And towards the end of that 2-year contract I had with them, it was like temporary employment through Randstad.
Mm-hmm.
I had the opportunity to either become a apprentice or see if the company would take off. And by that time, from 5 to midnight, I had been making swords. And so we did the math and kind of like, hey, we just made a certain amount of money at this event. And like, do we think that this could work? And so we started the Etsy. And then the Etsy was going crazy. And a year later than that, I would say that the company started, but that was like officially 2012.
Wow.
Like officially in the middle of 2012 was like, this is what we do full time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
went for it, man. That's awesome.
That's really cool.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Scary.
But yeah, I don't think I slept for those 2 years where I was building,
I believe
like
it.
building the company up.
Yeah.
But your side becomes your main, you're doing something right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Are you in a unit?
I am. I was in a unit called Imperial Atlantis, loosely based off of like the Spartans.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But we would go from place to place on boats, and at the time it was awesome. But then me and my best friend Sir Picnic, we just kind of had decided like it was a very militaristic, like everyone looks the same, like and it was awesome while it was awesome. But then we kind of like lost our freedom,
Mm-hmm.
and we wanted to aesthetically and on the field, and like have more freedom. So then we started in 2014, the Keepers of the Obsidian Stag, Kodos.
Okay.
And so me and him started that, and then we only take 4 petitioners at a time,
Mm-hmm.
and it usually takes them about a year through different things. And we did that because the unit previous, we had 16 people join at one event, and I didn't know half of them.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It got way too big, way too quick, and I didn't know half the unit anymore. And so yeah, Keepers of the Obsidian Stag.
That's awesome. Okay.
That's cool.
Is Picnic?
Yeah,
still
we just had our 10-year anniversary last year.
Nice.
That's
Is Picnic,
awesome.
Is Picnic still in the unit with you?
Oh yeah, we're co-leaders. And then as we were getting older, he had a couple of children, got married. I've had them the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
and we just put our heads together. And we're like, there's gonna be a time where like maybe both of us can't make this certain event, and so we made a trifecta. We have a tri-council, and so we brought in Blade Master Fox,
Okay.
Ryan
Mhm.
Fox,
Yeah.
and he's our third co-leader.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. We're going to open it up to the chat and see if anybody has any questions for Gorg. While we're waiting for those questions to roll in, I will ask a few more. What's your favorite combo? Like you step out on the field, what are you using?
So just before lockdown, I became Blade Master Sir Fane's apprentice for Blade Masterhood. I really, I mean, I do really, really, really like Sword and Board. I do. I like that a lot, but in certain instances, I really, really like a 6-foot Omni and a buckler.
Okay.
A 6-foot Omni and a buckler, maybe like a little short bat, either in my backhand or to hang from the belt.
Okay.
Love it. Absolutely love glaive work. That's why I approached Sir Fane, wrote him a bunch of letters in game from my character to his. Basically like, what do the kids call it? Glazing. And he accepted, and so I call him the glaive master of the blade masters, and so that's my favorite is a 6-foot and a buckler or sword and board.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Under the Mushroom Cap wants to know, Gorg, have you ever made a scythe?
I have never. I don't want to say never. I made a bunch of dumb stuff before I knew about like this game. Like I made a flail with a baseball bat and like a 5-foot chain and like one of them poof soccer balls. Like we didn't know, you know what I mean?
That's a play.
I made a hammer on a piece of 10-foot metal conduit. I think I tried to make a scythe in there. It snapped off, and I was like, okay, we're done with that. So as far as like for this game, I try and like talk to people that ask for them and explain to them like, could you make one? Maybe. Will it work at all? No. It'll just snap off. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The closest I've ever seen is Drunk Bob made one, but it was more like just a really long bearded axe.
Mm-hmm.
So no.
There was this Carney guy at the St. Louis Amgard Park decades and decades ago that made a functional scythe. It even had the curve and everything. It had the blade. And let me tell you how bad of an idea that was, because he anchored the blade strong enough so it wasn't going to snap off, which means when he did a full body rotation and turned with the scythe, and that blade just hooked into your ribs that, you were not having a good day. Like you were having organs that started leaking fluids.
Yeah.
Mongoose,
it's a bit much.
Mongoose wants to know, how much DAP have you consumed over your career? And I'm assuming they mean like how much have you used, not how much have you drank.
That's extremely hard to tell. So one of my things is I was able to get spray grade DAP. It comes in 5-gallon cans. It's like pre-mixed. Really, really, really good to brush on because it dries very quick and even. Right now I have about 45 of those cans at the end of my gun range. I have another 12 to 15 I could put down there, and that might be a third of what I've used since 2018.
Whoa.
I want to say 5 gallons a week, maybe 8, depending.
That's so much DAP.
That's a lot.
We're cranking, man. Shields eat DAP if you want to get that handle to not come out. A lot of facings and things. I spilled it quite a few times. But yeah, I think I've used 3.5 gallons this week, and it's Thursday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Banjax, for subscribing. You're technically a part of the bench, so I'm not sure it counts, but I still appreciate it.
Doesn't it?
What Cord also wants to know, what's the scariest thing you've seen in a weapons check?
Me?
Yes.
So I'll be at weapons check a lot, but it's what do they call that? Where like you do the thing that you do so it doesn't look good. Oh, hold on.
Nepotism?
Not counterproductive. Not you kind of like nepotism, like
conflict of interest.
Yeah, it's a conflict of
that makes
interest
sense.
for me to do anything at weapons check other than tag things, right?
Mm-hmm.
You tell me it passes, I'll throw a tag on it.
That's fair.
The worst thing I've seen pass. Okay, so it wasn't our game. It was another Florida-based game. Like you said, I don't want to shit talk, but it was another Florida-based game. They didn't do very good weapons checks, so I put one layer of blue foam on a baseball bat to prove a point. It got through, and I took the cover off and I showed them, and I said, "Please do your job." And it was an aluminum T-ball bat.
Whoa.
Wild.
Yes.
That's
So that's the worst thing I've ever seen get through. I would never do that now. I know that's not a good thing to prove a point with. I was very new, didn't have the company yet. But like someone had thrown a javelin that knocked my friend out, and it was made on band shot pole. It was a 5-foot band shot pole.
Oh my God.
With no blue in front of it, just couch foam. So it ate a hole into the couch foam, hit him in the temple. He goes down. I'm new to LARPing, so I think he's doing like the LARP death thing. And no, he's knocked the fuck out.
Damn.
That's an attempted assassination.
Yeah.
They had 10-foot bamboo with like blue foam sandwiched and sewn to the core. No DAP, just like string. Okay, I gotta stop.
I know a guy, including me. I know another guy that could definitely kill somebody with that.
Yes,
for sure.
they all can. I saw them with 30 of these bamboo spears, and I'm like, I'm not fighting this battle. I'm not fighting this battle.
Doing it. I feel like some of those are probably safer than some Texas Amp Guard weapons circa late 90s.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Early Gorg career was weird.
How was it weird?
Well, I went to where the fighting was, like you said. Like, it doesn't really matter what they call the game. Go where the fighters are. So there's 350 people at these events. Why would I not go?
Yeah.
Oh, perhaps because there's an entire team of 12-year-olds.
Oh, God.
Perhaps that.
Was this Sleeping Samurai?
No.
Oh, okay.
Someone in the chat will tell you.
A team of 12-year-olds does sound fun.
It's not that way
not
anymore.
Safe, but
This game has grown up immensely. It's under new leadership. It was Watts. Okay, it was Watts.
And, Way of the Samurai?
Way of the Sword, yeah.
Way of the Sword.
But that is not what it is anymore. So that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That wasn't even early Watts. When I came in, it had been around for a few years. There was a lot of things, man. There was a lot of weapons where I was like, please, no, I have to do something. That was part of the motivation. Is if I sell people things that won't hurt me, this will be better for everyone.
I think Sleeping Samurai Mongoose. I think they were the ones that Amtgard sent a cease and desist to. There was like a whole big dramatic thing about it.
They were primarily cons, right?
Matt, maybe maybe it was Way of the Sword, and I'm just getting confused. Maybe, I don't know.
Way of the Sword originally was an Amtgard.
It was probably them. Yeah, there was like a whole cease and desist thing, and there was a lot of back and forth, and I heard that they're like a bunch of cool cats now. Sleeping Samurai is the con group. They're the ones that they come. They have great promotion. Like they come to they go to cons and like they do tournaments and stuff.
They really do. I know a lot of people that play now that like that was their first
Yeah.
toe in the pool.
I want to give a shout out to Dunlin, the Dunlin ladies. There's 6 people watching live at the Dunlin watch party. That's awesome.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Very cool.
Gorg, I want to thank you for coming on the show. Happy to have you here. Excited to
Absolutely
hear you talk tech. I do have a question for Sir Glass. Sir Glass, who are you?
Oh, well, I'm Glass. I started in '09 with, we had a card shop in town that would sell these weapons there. And, ever since I was like a wee little child, like we always looked at them and we were like, oh yeah, we'd be great at that. It'd be great. And so, eventually we got old enough and we each bought one and we just, beat each other bloody in like outside of an apartment. And then we started being like, oh man, we're hot shit. We're the best. We could go beat up these nerds at their own game.
Uh-oh.
And then we got beat up a lot, as you might expect, because we showed up at practices and, it was a really good time. And after we kind of got there, we kept getting better and better. And, we lived near where Forge Foamer and Helen at the time was. So we always kind of had access to like pretty good stuff, like as far as comparing it to, what people who don't live near a sword fighting place might have. But, there's a difference between that and being like, I think I can do it better, which I couldn't really. They have a lot of supplies, but I really wanted to try. And so, I just loved going out and building stuff, and I had a couple friends who really wanted me to build them stuff, mainly because you might call it better in the sense that it was kind of faster, but it was much scarier than what the...
Oh no! We lost all our friends. But have no fear, they will return. Oh.
There's Glass.
Rip.
What?
What?
All right. As you were.
Okay. So,
There it is.
and then I
Glass
started...
got shattered.
Never heard that one before. Never. There's a lot of puns with Glass. Honestly, I like it. And I kind of got forced in that decision by a buddy of mine, but
Tell
the
us
name
the story.
stuck. It's a good
Tell us
name.
the story.
I don't actually know this story.
Yeah.
Oh, it was totally AJ. I mean, one night
Of course it was.
we were... I mean, it was back when, we would... Practice would end, we'd keep sparring for an hour or two after everyone else had gone home. And I remember I was tired. I've never been in great shape, but, we were in good enough shape to fight for a long time. And he'd kind of beat me in a way where I couldn't walk well. So I was like laying down in the building we've had practice in forever, which we recently lost. Sad. And he was basically like, Casey, it's time. You need a name. Otherwise, I'm going to come up with something terrible for you, and I'm going to hit you harder next time. And, he pressured me for a few minutes, and I'm like, and it turned out as I'm laying back on this bench, the roof of that building is a bunch of windows, which are made of glass. And that is what we came up with.
Amazing.
So just a simple noun, and honestly, it's iconic now. I like it.
That's true.
It is what it is. So many puns.
That's wild.
Yeah, Slagar's terrifying, and he will make your leg hurt. But now I can beat him up, which feels great. That's the con of, him having 2 young children. I'm coming for
We
you,
had the
AJ.
good fortune of having Slagar here for a couple of years in Florida.
Oh,
Yeah. And then we got him back. So yeah, that's where the name came from, and kept trying to make stuff for him because he always wanted me to make him nicer, faster things that he could, and I took that as a challenge. And then, in college, I bought my first 3D printer because I was like, man, I really want to do this one thing. and I can't. I don't have the whatever it takes to make. I think arrows was like the first thing where I was like, I think I can do this in a really cool way, and I made it in a lot of really bad ways at first, but you know, man, that was certainly a life-changing experience, just getting my first 3D printer and getting used to it and going through that whole, heartache and trials. But now, right, I can make a lot of things. I do make a lot of things on that machine, on those machines, and it's let me, experiment with different techniques of building stuff, and you know, it's kind of taken me where I am today, and I've gotten nicer and nicer machines doing nicer and nicer things, and
Heck yeah.
it's kind of the best. 3D printers, man.
Let's take it to chat and see if we have any questions for you. I'll start you off. So, are you in a unit?
I am. I'm in the same unit as Horace. We're in the Emir.
Heck yeah.
And we've been there, coming on 10 years now, because it was right around when I got knighted, which I got knighted in 15.
Heck yeah.
That's its own story we won't go into as much here, but it was a pretty funny one. All the reasons that I wasn't in the mirror as early as
I forgot about that.
Is this
people
a
like
safe
to have kind people just have a lot of preconceived notions sometimes that are unfounded, and in hindsight are really funny, especially given it was me at that time. But I still had a lot of friends there, even if I wasn't in there. One of my people I started with got into the mirror before that, and that jerk. One event. That's all it ever takes, right? One event you didn't go to.
It was the same event that I got in.
I know. Yeah, I know. But I got in around 15 and worked my way up. I got my Lotus, and it's a good group.
Heck yeah.
It's a good time.
Cord wants to know what's the wildest. Well, no, I'm going out of order here. Banjax would like to know what's your favorite thing to 3D print.
That's
That's
so. I 3D print a lot of things. That's is knickknacks a real answer? I feel like
sure.
Honestly, like percentage wise, I print more knickknacks than anything. I'm a high school teacher, and the best way to distract a high school kid is just hand them something to mess around with while you're trying to teach them. And if they break it, whatever, I can make a new one. I mean, in Belagarth, my favorite accomplishment has probably been the arrows.
Okay.
I feel like I did the most work with those arrows.
What's the Cord wants to know what's the wildest thing you have made with your 3D printer for Bell or not for Bell?
Probably this axe, in the sense of this isn't made out of foam. This is actually a plastic, just like a rubber plastic. I didn't think I'd be able to make it to work really well, but it's great. I covered it in a little bit of foam because otherwise, the debate of how much plastic is foam could go on for a long time. But definitely foam on the outside. Definitely foam. But this is nice and squishy, and it's about as tough as any material, so it'll never break down. Just like as far as the wildest thing I've ever made, it took a long time to make this in a way that you can hand it to a big, burly, scary axe cop and he doesn't kill somebody with it. But yeah, the axe is a fun one. We've made some other wacky stuff, but it's probably the weirdest one.
Heck yeah.
Glass, what filament is that, if that's all right to ask?
Okay, this is NinjaFlex. It's a TPU. It's a 85A Shore, I think, hardness.
That's cool.
So it's pretty stiff, but squishy enough that it'll go
Very
with
cool.
it.
Spencer TFL, thank you for following the bench. Really appreciate it. What Tack is proofing your weapons?
It's legit. He's hit me with it a lot, and it really does not suck to get hit with at all.
Okay. What
which is usually a problem of axes.
What's your favorite weapon combo that you use?
Man, that's part of the reason that I got into building stuff, because when I first started fighting, I didn't have a whole lot of money. I was a server, I was in college, but I wanted everything, right? I was that typical new person who starts off with a red that he has no idea how to use, and it was a great time, don't get me wrong, but it's hard to be able to. I'm like, I want a new one. I'm like, well, I can't afford a new one, so I bought a big stick and wrapped blue camp pad to make my second red that I ever owned, and I started buying half-inch fiberglass and seeing what I could do. Whenever somebody broke their sword, I always be like the first one, like creeping over the corner to try and be like, "Hey, you done with that?" Yeah, they weren't gonna give it back, so they just buy a new sword. Um, so I like to fight. There isn't a thing that I don't like to fight with. When I go to Olympics, right, I like to be in like every single tournament, and I have like a rainbow of things over there specifically because of that. Like I have pretty fair assessment that I've gotten decent at most things that you can fight with in the sport. Like, not the best at anything, but I'm pretty decent at everything.
How dare you?
Well, thank you very much for joining the bench. Really appreciate it. Let's talk swords. Let's talk about the history of sword making. And I think Gorg, you were gonna tackle this one, and I think the way we talked about this is Gorg, I think you were gonna take us on this journey, but I was gonna offer the Amtgard perspective since I've been Amtgard most of my foam fighting. But also I started in '93, so I might need to go first.
True.
Unless you have some historical stuff that you want to throw out there.
Just pictures, man. You were there.
Fair enough. So way back when foam fighting was new, from what I understand, like before my time even, from what I understand, foam were like the original swords were like broomsticks and shit with couch foam wrapped around them and duct taped. And I know, at least Amtgard wise, the first not completely fucking horrible weapons came about because, if I remember the story correctly, somebody had a girlfriend that had like a really slight build, and so he made her a sword out, and I don't remember what, I think it was either Fun Noodle or it was like MC Foam or something like that, and he made her a sword that was basically similar enough looking to the swords we have today, with the idea that this girlfriend who had a very slight build would be able to use it more effectively. And then the person who made it started slaying everybody with it and was like, I'm just gonna fucking use this thing. And then we kind of entered the era of the PVC, the PVC and either Fun Noodle or 2 layers of the insulation, the pipe insulation foam, or in some cases 1 layer of the pipe insulation foam, and it bruised this real bad. Is that about when you wanted to start? Is those kind of swords and take it from
That
there?
sounds about right.
Okay.
That sounds about right. Maybe like camp pad and stuff.
Oh yeah, campaign.
So when I came on the scene in 2010, there was a very vast difference between what you could buy and what you saw made.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you could buy was amazing. Was the like the things from Forge Foam. They were about the only people that were doing it that I knew of. Mm-hmm. And so the idea of routing out foam rather than box method was I mean, I wasn't around for when it first started, but that seems like something that they could kind of coin as far as like the mass produced stuff. Mm-hmm. Stab tips were not very prevalent when you found them. They were made out of couch foam, and tore off, and like were kind of more of a burden than a blessing. Mm-hmm. And so when I came on, I was using. I'll go through kind of how like my history was, and I picked up things from makers in order to make mine better, and then like putting all our heads together, and that tech boom of like 2012, 2013 was like a lot of changes started. I'm
going to jump in because I do have a tech advance that's prior to that I think
sure.
needs to be talked about. So in the 2000s, Amtgard tech at least was golf club shaft and Fun Noodle. Fun Noodle
Yep.
brand Fun Noodle.
I made so many of those.
So many of those. And so, you know, so we were using the PVC and Fun Noodle, and when the golf club shafts came online, it was just like, what is this magic? You know, because they were more durable, they were lighter, they were just more aerodynamic and stuff. And at the time, there wasn't this huge requirement in the AmpGuard rulebook, at least, to have an actual blade covering the blade of your sword. So we had swords that they looked like this. It was handle, it was all just bare shaft, and then this little tiny blade right at the end. And so we would swing this completely unsafe shit at each other. They looked like they were, this was the, what was it called? Not punji sticks.
Zulu spear.
Zulu spears. It was the Zulu spear.
Yeah.
Because the justification was that these are real weapons out of Africa, so that's what I'm using is a Zulu spear. You know, lots of busted knuckles.
Take your blue foam, you put, you get to the end of your shaft with your punalo, and then you'd like, you put a little cap on there, some tape or something in there, and then you just tape your blue foam right on top, and there's your stab tip. You just stab them with a golf club shaft.
Yep. Or
little blue foam on top.
You take your scraps and you jam them in there real good,
Yep.
So and then they would hold, like...
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god.
So then,
absolutely.
So then, Fun Noodle brand, and so this is, I don't know if this is allegedly true. Mm-hmm. Fun Noodle was owned by a conservative Christian, like, family values kind of group, and in order to try to get Fun Noodle at reduced prices, they, somebody tried to contact them and be like, we want to buy boxes and boxes. We want you to, like, maybe custom engineer your noodle so that it's better fit for swords. We go through so many of these. And because they didn't want their blade, their Fun Noodle stuff associated with violence, they reduced the diameter of Fun Noodle brand noodles so that you could not use them.
That's why that happened? Yep. I didn't know that.
They reduced the outer and increased the inner so that your core wouldn't sit tight anymore.
Yep.
I heard the same story, so it's got to be true, right?
It's got to be true.
Yeah.
That, they basically, like pun intended, shafted all of us because we all used Fun Noodle. That's what we used. And you could just go to the dollar store and buy a whole box of it, So then we were kind of scrambling, and that's when we started doing the Tundra Noodle and all these other things, and then and then around 2010, take it from there.
And so we saw a lot of that. We had a lot of cross gamers come into our day battles and stuff, and they'd show up with a dozen of them. They'd get a golf club for $1 at Goodwill. It's kind of like bamboo. Out of every 10, there's 2 or 3 that are really good that last. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so they'd have their bag. They're like, I know half are going to fail midway through the day, but I got another 6. And so I want to point out, someone said something really cool in the chat. Dernar, I hope I'm saying that right, got his first routed fries from Ulrich of Drenthe, who would get shipments of phone delivered to his apartment on a semi and post inventory on the DAG boards. Good times. Ulrich of Drenthe lived locally enough to where we hung out and made stuff and talked shop all the time. Very, very, very instrumental in a lot of the things that I do now. One of the best minds in foam tech, especially at that time. So I just wanted to give flowers to Ulrich. Really, 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 what do you call it? Like a pillar of what came about in those early years when I was working.
Heck yeah.
And would actually come over and route fries in my shop a lot, so we wouldn't have to set up a router in his living room. Excuse me. Anyway, so stab tips were the main thing, and then you would have longevity was an issue. We started using camp pad quite a bit, and so with only 2 pound, you'd have blowout on the flats. You'd go to stab and you'd have that fold over, and then so 4 pounds started making waves, and what we would do is get the Harbor Freight puzzle mat, like floor mat, and that's like a
Mhm.
3.5 poundish, half-inch thick. Uh, well, it's like an Ava foam. I don't know
Yep.
exactly what it is. They usually go with the lowest bidder, but it's most of the time Ava. And we used that because the top was flat instead of the diamond plate that you would get from Walmart, because you'd have to stand that off. So you'd piece together these little 20-inch pieces and do your foam that way. But yeah, man, I those early days were awesome. The Wild West was like trying to figure out what foams there were. I remember Ulrich went to a yard sale one time and someone had a DDR pad, and he's like, I could cut that open and make stab tips.
Wild.
And, oh, there's a couch on the side of the road. There's a bunch of jab heads. You know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
part of me misses those days because you were just like trying to figure out, throwing crap against the wall, seeing what sticks. But I went from driveway markers, like 3/8 driveway markers,
Yep.
electrical tape together, and gorilla glued for rigidity. Whatever you could come up with,
Yeah.
like wheel weights for the counterweight, and like I think the first time I would say tech for me went from scrounging to like a product was like foam by mail would sell you sheets,
Yeah.
and so you could get shield foam from there in 24-inch squares, or pay a lot extra and get like 28-inch squares. And so I would just buy as much as they would send me and make shields that way. And so that shipping foam shield, that all foam shield, was still relatively new in those years as well. Like they'd been done, but like
Mhm.
it was hard to get a hold of. You know what I mean? And so originally when I started doing shields, I would just buy the sheets and then sell blanks for the people that wanted all
Okay.
kinds of crazy shapes and stuff. I remember I loaded up an entire trailer. I was not approved to vend at Rag yet, because I wasn't big enough. But I loaded up the whole trailer with like 10 sheets of foam cut different sizes, and I delivered that for my Rag money to all. I think it was Cairnhold Legion wanted a shitload of big towers and big rounds, and I brought 10-foot band shot poles that I got from Granger so they could make 10-foot spears.
Wild.
But yeah, tech was driveway markers and round fiberglass for a while, and the stigma was, we can't use hollow cores because we'll break them.
It's true.
Right. I mean, that's what people say. Oh, I'll break that in 3 hits. And so the hunt was, what can we find that's like readily available? Everything's always made for something else. Nobody makes anything for our game.
Yes.
What can we find that will work here?
Mm-hmm.
And so people like Braun of the Sons of Terra, Sir Braun,
Mhm.
and Sir Peter the Quick, and other people had started using kite spar.
Mhm.
And so we started using kite spar for blues. And then we were trying, once 4-pound foam came out and you couldn't feel the core on the flats anymore, the profile changed from like a 3-inch to like a 2.5 to a 2.75,
Mhm.
and it dropped from an inch and a half wide to an inch and a quarter. And so that was kind of like the arms race there for blues, was
Mhm.
getting them to a size, because 12-ounce was always the minimum in Dag and Bell. And so
Mhm.
how do you make a 12-ounce sword that doesn't feel like a 12-ounce sword?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And so integrating the stab tips on everything, integrating an oblong handle on everything, getting the balance point as close to the hilt as possible, because Dag, it has to tip towards the blade. And
Mhm.
so that arms race for blues, because every sorry if I get sidetracked, every different type of weapon has had a different period in which it took off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's
You know?
it's really interesting to hear you tell the story because I experienced all of these same like tech things happen, but actually like 2 years earlier
Yeah,
almost.
yeah.
But because like also this is just a story of Belgarth becoming more open and everybody sharing stuff. Um, because even in like the early days of the Amir, like or Rogue Company at the time, like we would
Hmm.
tell people how to do stuff, but people still had like secret things that they did.
Oh
Like
yeah.
And so like 4 pound was a big thing, but you really had to like 4 pound boxed swords. You had to get them from like Rune. You had to get them from Bo out north because he was the only one that would route 4 pound foam. Like nobody else really did that. So unless you were able to do it yourself or like box it out, like you had to go get it from
Yeah,
someone in Hydra.
you did.
Um, we made stab tips, but I was carpet taping. Um, like the yoga mat on the top
Hmm.
of the swords. We got better and better at how to do it. We taped the outside of our swords and sealed them, but that was like nobody liked that. Like for years, people were
Oh
like,
yeah,
"You're cheating by doing that.
you had to be
You know,
very
you're
hush hush
making
about it.
your
By
tape slap swords," and
by doing
people
what? By
hated
doing what
that.
now? I missed that part. What's the thing that they think you're
You know
cheating
how
by doing?
Amtgard skins their swords with tape?
Yeah.
Yep.
That wasn't allowed in Belgar. That said minimal tape on the striking surface.
What?
Yeah,
And
there
so they
were
would say if you
events.
had tape on it. Sorry, I
Yeah.
didn't.
No, no,
No,
that's
no.
wild.
Even like a couple years after it had become common, there was an event where
Mhm.
somebody from actually Numenor tried to ban. They still hated it and they tried to ban it, and they were like, "Listen, man, you can either ban tape on the swords at the event, or and have no one fight because all of the swords are taped,
Yep,
or you can get over it and allow it."
I know who it was and what event. I will not say the name of the person.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a Wolfpack opener.
Oh no, I'm thinking of Oktoberfest. Yeah,
Okay, same
but
people.
yeah,
But yeah,
it's
every
crazy.
single bat that had been sold that year had Tyvek on the outside.
Yep.
And
And a Tyvek, because it used to be like the old duct tape, or not duct tape, but like the Duck brand packing tape, and now you use Tyvek. Like, it's crazy how much things have improved.
oh yeah, oh yeah, because if you didn't, like, you had to tape the stab tip on. But
Hmm.
you and I both know wherever there's an edge of tape, it's
Yes.
going to cut the foam
Yep.
all the way to the damn core after like 10 swings.
Yep.
And so
And
you have to
yep.
rainbow wrap it.
And we didn't know like at first that you should like also like basically like make your stab tip like kind of blend in with like the rest of the foam, so they were like kind of off the sides a little bit, and then they would
Yep.
like you'd stab and then they'd stab off.
Yep.
We didn't reinforce the tips right, like it was, and you try to like tape it on it. My swords, I used to like, I wouldn't have to reblade them constantly, but I just constantly have to put a stab tip on. Like every practice or two, I'd have to put a new stab tip on the sword.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
and then I had like I think in like 2010, we got the hookup from Rogue Company for an all foam shield, but that was like you had to have a special
Yeah.
person that got you an all foam
2010. Yeah, you
shield,
did.
unless you were getting one of the like the old big tower shields from Forged Foam. Those are the only real all foam shields out there. Like they didn't have a out they didn't have any other options, so I used that for years with the low strap. That was very popular. Real straps aren't nearly as popular now, but that was like the Rogue tech they were bringing in, and
Mhm.
I used that for years. Even when I got a punch shield, I still used Frosty's old one that he had given me because he didn't really board fight anymore. And when that broke, I still remember like I have the same shield now, but I was like, oh no, like I don't have a shield. Like what do I do? And I'm like looking around and I'm like, just get on the internet. I'm like, oh, Gorg just sells shields. Like I could just buy one now. So I still have just a Gorg shield. Like why wouldn't I? Like it's
uh,
crazy.
Appreciate it.
quick. We need to push on. So I'm going to take one question for everybody. Since we're talking, this is from Durnar. Since we're talking tech progression, one thing I've heard a fair bit recently is how much today's gear would never pass a check or hit test 15 years ago. Do you feel that's mostly nostalgia, or have safety and hit calibration evolved with the tech?
People just wouldn't take your hits with today. Like that I think is more the thing, which, is its own argument. I don't like the gear we have now doesn't hit harder. Spears, maybe. Spears, people would probably fail the spears we're using
Yes.
right now. But everything else I would say on average, just has more padding in between you and death now, because everything, when you're using fiberglass, that's just more rigid. It's gonna
Yeah.
flex less. It's gonna go
Yes.
through, and it's gonna hurt.
That makes sense.
I have a lot of thoughts on that. Was that specifically for glass or?
Oh, that's just in general. Just a somebody threw out there?
I think some things yes and some things no. I think the game has changed for the better in many, many ways. I think the fact that unnecessary mass, especially in reds, going away is probably the best thing for actual long-lasting injuries reduction that I've ever seen. We actually took a stance this last year. I do not make swingable band shop anymore. It's just not. It's not where we're at anymore. Spears are okay as long as you pat them right and you do them well, um, and some other little niche things here and there. But as far as band shop glaives, the speed of the game and the aggressiveness of the fighting that has gone up so much, it's too difficult to pull a shot that you don't want to land when the mass is too high.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, a lot of reds are thinner. I will say in some instances we've gone too far and gone a little bit too corner cutty. That's a personal thing. And I think that weapons are made a little bit too disposable sometimes because you never know when a weapon fails. You find out the next day. You know what I mean?
Or you find out
Someone
violently.
died. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're being hit with it, you find out. But as the user, you know, sometimes you find out the next day at weapons check. And so I don't like the idea of I could get through a couple of days with this. But that's me. That's probably I'm a dad. I'm an older guy. I don't want a sword to fail on my collarbone. But yeah, I think overall, mass of weapons coming down while still maintaining safety is the best
Yeah.
thing that's ever happened. I'd rather take a
Yeah.
headshot from a red today
Mhm.
than ever at like rag 15, rag 16. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
no.
Still be conscious.
Yeah.
Like, that's
And you can pull
that's
it.
the
I
W.
can stop my red if
Yeah.
I have to. Like I can, but if you got 2.5, 3 pounds, it's coming down on you. So that's my thought.
I just want to say, what if anyone tells you that 10 years ago they would not pass our swords because of safety and that they hit harder now, they're fucking lying. I was regularly doing weapons checks 10 years ago. No fucking way. They're so much lighter now. They're so much nicer now. They're so much safer now.
Mhm.
No way.
Your ass
Even
would
fun.
get worn
if you
out
got
back
hit with a
forever.
forged foam sword from back then, you would cry. Like it is like not even close to the same. And it was well made. That would not hurt you. But like I regularly had bruises all the time. That does not happen anymore.
Nope. I agree, 1,000%.
Let's talk about how to build a sword. So we've kind of had a progression of this is what it used to be like. This is how we used to do it. How would your average person, your average Belgrim, how would they build a sword today? Or how should they, I guess I should say. Glass, do you want to take this one away?
Okay, I can start us off. So I think this, you know, it's why we have two different subjects here. There's a really broad genre here of what you can do, right? And now I'm going to say, like, you know, belt sanders are good. If I had to choose one power tool to have, if I had to pick one thing that moved on its own to cut foam, it would be a bandsaw. Every day, no matter what. Nothing else. If I can't get a bandsaw, I'd say a bread knife. But like one thing, bandsaw. Like it does so much for every. You can make it work for any application. There's other tools you can use that'll be better, but like in general, a bandsaw is gonna do so much work for you. Outside of that, right? You have to source your stuff, and this is like people talk about blue camp pad from Walmart. I used a lot of that too. You can still find it. Frankly, like foam by mail though, like in general, most people have the means, especially if you're in a realm, right? Get together with some buddies. It's worth the investment to get a slightly nicer quality product, or buying the supplies from somebody. Like it's just one of those things that blue camp pad I feel like came out because you couldn't just hop on the internet super easy and go to this website and order it. It was a resource. It was a hidden gem. So like
It was cheap at
nowadays,
the time.
yeah, I would just go out in general and and buy something, whether it's a fry because you want to have a routed fry. So if you don't have a router at home or a good way to route it, get one pre-made. And maybe that's, less exciting than where we want to go with this conversation. But like, really, if we're talking about, I want to make a weapon that's going to last a good amount of time, and I'm going to get a good experience building it so I can get better and better at it. There's no reason to like shoot yourself in the foot and get something that's not going to last as long.
What is so for somebody that doesn't know what that means? What is a routed fry?
So when you have, I could just take a square of foam, right? And theoretically, if I were to take that square of foam and stab it through a core, I now have a piece of foam on top of a stick. Now, obviously, that's not going to work, right? So typically, we split that into two parts, in a cylinder shape, and you want to have a cutout of your fry, of your core, whatever you're going to use, usually like, somewhere between usually about ½ inch is what you want to have cut out of that. And you're going to cut a channel out in the middle so that when you put the two pieces together, it fits right around your core. Everything comes together. All your adhesives that you're using, usually DAP, are going to be nice and sturdy. It's great. Routers are also not that expensive. But again, if you don't have one, there's other ways without it. But I would just, one way or another, work with a routed product.
Okay.
Cores are kind of the same way, right? Like, you can go get ½ inch fiberglass. You can go and do other stuff, but you're probably not going to make a super competitive weapon unless you're jacked, which people are, but it's just in general. And you can go to something like Goodwin's and get like 524 carbon fiber protruded shafts, and like you can get them in 48-inch sticks and cut them in half and have two really short swords, or make yourself one nice sword. You have a lot of options. There's other places you can get it. But cores and foam, those are one of those things that I don't think you have to go with I'm just going to go to Walmart and buy stuff kind of thing. DAP's your best friend. We talked about the gallons that, Gorg goes through. There's a reason for that. It's great. It's a flexible adhesive in the sense of once it's securely on there. If you use something like Gorilla Glue, because people say, hey, that's super strong, it will be really strong up until the moment it breaks, and then it's worthless. It doesn't do anything anymore. DAP, on the other hand, will flex with it. It's like it's a rubber cement is what it's called. So it will eventually come off, but once a little piece breaks, it doesn't just catastrophically cause the entire blade to come off, usually. But it's going to hold that thing together a lot better, be a lot safer in the long run. And if, for whatever reason, you pulp out the tip, you're not hitting someone with a shard of Gorilla Glue, which is terrifying. And I have seen that happen. It's not good. That kind of covers the, upper half. The handles, a cheap way is you can literally go with the like original kind of rogue Amir way, build up your handle with a little bit of duct tape or whatever you're going to do, and slide whatever diameter of PVC over that. Make sure it's on there really good. You don't want it coming off, but it works. It works real good. Pommels, there's a million different ways, but it's not that hard. I'm not going to make sure it's not going to hurt anybody. Fabric kind of fits with the other ones. Get a lighter fabric. Get something strong. A lot of people, you can get ripstop nylon from, I was going to say Joann's, Rip Joann's. From any fabric store. Again, online's really easy, even Amazon. And the stuff is, light as a feather and incredibly durable. It's literally what they use to make parachutes. So,
yep.
If I wanted to make a cheap sword, that'd be where it'd be at. Okay. What's up?
Ripstop is what they make parachutes out of?
Yeah, ripstop nylon.
Interesting.
Different kinds. There's different kinds, but yeah. Yep.
I'm sure there's different. I just know that is a use case for ripstop nylon.
For sure. 1000%.
Gorg, any builds on that?
Yeah, so I agree wholeheartedly. It's going to sound a little bit funny, but I started selling all those things for all those reasons. I have all those parts on the website. I actually have a drop down where it says I want to build a bat. You don't have to think. All of it goes in a box and shows up to your house. And it's like 60% of what it would cost if I built it. The hard part with bats is like y'all said, a lot of these tubes that were available just aren't. They started changing them.
Yeah.
The what do you call it? The hardness is different, things like that. But for flats, yeah, I would say you need a core that is light and durable. You need a routed 4 pound fry, and you need the striking surface, and you need a stab tip. And the rest is kind of like up to your whatever you want to do from the handle down. But those are the things you need. Um, you need a way to secure the stab tip. I like to use strapping tape up and over the top, and then a little X. Um, and then for bats, you need Tyvek tape. And I strongly suggest to anyone who's taking the time to build a sword, please use brushes. Uh, a little chip brush from Harbor Freight is like 78 cents. And instead of pushing the DAP around with a scrap piece of blue foam, you're just gonna get a better layer of DAP on there. But the tried and true has always been DAP weldwood contact cement. Like, I don't think we're ever going to get rid of that until some crazy product comes out that we haven't even heard of yet. And then the 4 pound, the 2 pound, the stab tip. But yeah, I when I have taught classes on how to build, it's usually like, make a bucket of realm loaners, or for something like a demo or something like that. And they are dirty cheap. It's PVC, Walmart blue foam, and tube socks. And you can get a sword or it's a barrel mace that passes on the field. But like, as far as a high quality functioning weapon, like, we're at the point where minimum orders are, hard to hit for the average dude. And I hit those. I do a small markup, and you can just buy them from me. I mean, I'm not trying to, or there's plenty of people that sell bleed kits. I think
you're allowed to promote. You're on the bench. You are allowed to promote your shop. That's
for
totally
sure.
within bounds.
For sure. What I'd love is for prices to be where they were in 2020 from my distributors. Wish in one hand, poop in the other, and see which one gets filled first. But I have faith that they'll come back down a little bit. You know what I mean, as far as materials go. But
Glass, you have a build. It looks like you're want to see.
Yeah, please.
I realized I said those products, but like, if I had to, like, every year we have like all the new people from our realm. We have a lot of new people come over. Anyone who wants to, they can do it for free. I have a bunch of old busted swords. They just grab something. They can take, we'll take it all apart and we're gonna put it back together. And there's a few like tips that I always give them. And I feel like one is, don't forget to cap. We mentioned it earlier, but don't forget to cap the end of your stick, right? You can use a piece of just scrap foam, put it on the end, compress it just a little bit, and tape around. If you have a 3D printer, you can also make a really cheap, easy one out of that same rubbery plastic, and it will last forever, which is awesome. But do that. Otherwise, you're going to stab someone once, and then you're going to actually stab somebody once. It's not good. Don't overuse your DAP, right? You want to get everything to look kind of wet, right? And then give it time to dry. If you can have a heat gun, awesome, right? Do it really far away. Let it all dry up. Get it a little tacky. It shouldn't feel wet anymore at all. If I do use a heat gun, I always let it sit for another 5 minutes just so it gets back down to room temperature. Any expansion or compression is gone. It's back to its normal temperature. Squish it together. I usually cut it way longer than it needs to be. Then I trim it up with just a little bit, a little bit of gap. I don't want the core to go straight to the edge, but basically right there. I will then put on 2 squares of a 4-pound disc and stabbing foam. And I get my stabbing foam from Home Depot. If you walk back, just one of their aisles, they have their brand of stabbing foam, and it's super thick. You can cut it into thirds, and it's plenty, but it'll last forever. It's a lot of swords, and it's cheap and it's easy. And then I use the bandsaw or a bread knife to line everything up nice and clean.
Light Fennec wants to know, what's the best PPE for using DAP?
Airflow.
Yeah, that's a good one. But yeah, airflow is important. Don't get high
Don't do that shit in your apartment.
Yeah. Rubber gloves. Rubber gloves.
Yeah.
it's just annoying. Getting DAP on your hands is the most annoying thing
Mhm.
ever. It takes forever to get off. It's just gross.
Yeah.
And then let's see, what did they say? Whoosh wants to know: have you printed using the VarioShore foaming TPU?
I do have some actually. I haven't used it as much just because since it is variable, right? If your temperature fluctuations are happening at all, and it is technically a foaming material, right? I'm very concerned about putting on Bell for. I've seen a couple people do it, and it does have just it doesn't hold together as well as other TPUs. Like for instance, like this pommel I made. This is a normal pommel, and it's like it would never come apart. You would have to
Oh,
take a
that's
knife to it
cool.
or something. But like very sure I've seen it become a little bit more brittle and have because it does have bubbles, right? There's less surface area when it's just touching like this versus an actual full layer. It's really cool material. There's lots of cool things you can do with it. It's just I worry a little bit about it for like as rough and tumble as our sport is.
I will. Let's see. Should I save how I build my swords to the next agenda? I feel like the next agenda because it's how we build our swords, and my mind is blown listening to you guys because I'm like I don't build my swords anything like that, like not even a little. So this is gonna be fun. Let's talk about how you build your swords. Gorg, take us away. And I'm gonna
Sure.
hustle everybody so we have enough time. But take
Understood.
us away.
I will give you the Cliff's Notes. So I start with 1/2 inch. Let's say it's a flat blade. Start with 1/2 inch thick, 4 pound microcell. It's a polyethylene product that you can't really see the cells on. I cut that to the width, and then I run that through a router with the corresponding bit on the corresponding depth for half of what the cord would be. Run it one way against, like the opposite way you would do is if it was wood, because you want to go against the router road so it'll grab it and pull it. And so I go right to left, and then I flip it and I go right to left again. And what that does is normally the side that's closest to the fence gets cut better than the side that's away because it's not a rigid product. And so you're cleaning up both sides of that channel. And then I would take 1 inch thick Velara, which is another product, but it has like bigger cells, the more bouncy, and it's a 2.0 pound density. And I would run that through the bandsaw. And then if I want to bevel the edges, I'd run my table at a 45, knock the corners off, and then figure out my thickness based on what I want the sword to be. If it's a blue sword, it's going to be like 2.75 on the flat. I usually run 6 swords at a time. I pre-dap all the fries because that first dap layer from the spray grade that I use is going to get soaked into the foam. So I pre-dap all 6. By that time, the first one's dry. I dap 3, and then I dap a core, and while the core is slightly damp, I sit it down into the dry foam. And that's so that the edges of the round core don't grab that channel and not get seated all the way down into the channel. And then I have a piece of poplar that I ran through my planer that's like super flat. I lay that whole setup on there, and then I kind of like lay my foam down like this. As you're stretching the foam out, it's going to widen the gap, and then as it hits the other foam, it kind of like hugs the core. And then I take a PVC T, so like just a T-joint, I put a band shop cap on the back of it, and that's basically a squeegee. And so I press down and I squeegee it flat. And then as I'm putting that pressure on that 4 pound, it kind of like straightens any kind of mess ups I had, and it makes that whole 4 pound straight. When that's all said and done, I go ahead and pinch the tip again, make sure that that doesn't open up. And then I do that with all 6 of them. Then I trim the excess off, right? So now I have my 4 pound, and the only thing sticking out past the 4 pounds is the handle. Then I dap all 6 of my Velara blades, and same thing, it's all timing. For me, I know the timing. I can do 6 blues or 4 reds. And so with the 6 blues, I dap all the white foam, all the Velara, and then I go back and I dap all the 4-pound that's been stuck to the core. By the time I'm done with that 6-1, I'm resting them on their edge so they don't stick to my table. I start, laying my sword 4-pound against the white foam. When I get up to the tip, I pull a little bit of tension as I'm coming around the tip, and then I lay it down the other side, and then I squeeze both sides all the way down to make sure it has good adherence. And I do that to all 6, trim off the excess. And then before I put the stab tips on, you want to lay the sword down flat, and you want to take a snap-off blade, a really long snap-off blade, take about half that 2-pound off past the tip. And what we realized years ago is if you just put the stab tip on that, especially on a thinner sword, you want the amount that it sticks past the tip to be equal to or less than the width, because otherwise you'll have fold over.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you have fold over, the more you'll have that core wanting to poke out of the side of the 4-pound. And so on a blue, I use 1/2-inch Insulite. Really, really, really nice yoga mat. You just buy it in rolls. And I use like a 6-inch piece so it comes down the side a little bit. And then I use that same snap-off knife to cut it flush with the sides. So when you look at it, it kind of looks like a flat top haircut, where it has a little bit on the sides. Because if you have a very pronounced edge and you throw a shot, it's the same thing as when tape stops on foam. It's going to tear right at the end of it. So you want it to come down the sides a little bit. I tape that off, or I cut that off, and then to make sure, give it a little bit more strength on the flats, I take like a 3-inch piece of Gorilla Tape, and I cut the bottom at an angle for the same reason. If you cut it flat and you put it there, you're going to have the foam wears out wherever there's a flat on the edge of a piece of tape. So when you angle it, it kind of prolongs that a little bit. Put a piece on each side, and then I run Tyvek down the length of the flat to hold everything together, make it look really nice under the cover. And then I take strapping tape, 2.88 wide strapping tape, about a 9 to 10-inch piece. I find the middle of the tip, and I bring it down over to secure that stab tip. And then I take another piece, cut it in half so I have 1-inch pieces. And I put a little X.
Okay.
And so that way your stab tip's secured, your sides are secured, everything's had time enough to dry before sticking, because it is a contact cement, not a glue. A glue means you need to clamp it. Wait, that's not what DAP is at all. And that's pretty much it for that. Then I add leather strips to oblong the handle. I heat up thin wall PVC and stretch it over the leather strips and everything. And then depending on what type of sword it is, I'll either counterweight it with a bolt, or we have these lead dowels that we have made for us that are 0.53 internal, 1-inch external, so that the core fits in, but I still have enough room to use an acrylic hot melt to hold it in place. Wrap that 1/2-inch 4-pound, and then cap it with 4-pound and 2-pound, and then make it into like a nice teardrop or gumdrop shape. Wrap everything up with hockey tape. Make a cover out of ripstop.
Heck yeah.
I got a little lost there. Did I get a little too long-winded?
No.
No, it was
perfect.
awesome.
Glass, let's talk your sword building. How do you make your swords?
On the level, I don't make a lot of flat blades, so this I'll give the perspective on around a bat.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of those steps are very much the same, especially as far as the sword tip, which I kind of talked about, right? I think we got to the 2 squares, then you just cut them off with that. Trying to think of where we left off. So like this is one of those TPU caps, so it's nice and squishy and
Hello.
I forgot to
go everywhere. But yeah, I'd say the only couple differences is I have the worst luck, I feel, with trying to do anything with wet curing, like ever. So I always get mine like completely dry, but I do the fold over where like I have the sword flat here, I hold the foam here and kind of bend it backwards, and it does like widen the channel like this as you press it down, which gives you, you know, pretty good surface area on there, and you know that holds up pretty well. Then you get down to the handle, and that's kind of where we do some weird stuff. I'm gonna share my screen.
Do it,
Charlie, if you could.
Oh yeah, we got it. Okay, so let me see if I remember how to do this correctly. There, and I have to go to this, and I have to say, let's see, settings. Oh god, share video source.
While you're setting that up, can I answer a question from the chat? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
I thought it said fart the eager. Furt the eager. I'm sorry. Did we go over the pommel? Was that 4 pound or something else? So with the exterior of my pommel, I always use like 3.5 to 4 pound to get it up to that like 2 1/8, because you never want to go straight 2 because they'll wear out. And then I cap that with 4 pound. I cap that with 2 pound, and then I trim it with an electronic fish fillet knife. It's kind of like a sawzall, but it has 2 blades on it.
If you can't, Charlie, I have my sword. I can just.
Yep. Sorry, I'm trying to remember how to do this, and it's not giving me the option to show it.
I can see it on the stream, I think.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Screen.
I
There
said
it.
it.
Do I do it?
No,
Aha! Got it.
Yeah.
Victory. Okay, so this is one of my 3D printed handles. I think I have these online somewhere
So
for people to download. So basically, they're split down to two halves, and you can take your core. If we look, it's you know ever so slightly bigger than what a actual core is going to be. I just put carpet tape around the handle, which wouldn't work with a lot of things, but with this, and I don't even try and put it on particularly smooth. In fact, having some of that, you know, texture on it by putting it on sideways gives you a little bit of extra grab. Then I put the 2 halves together, and I torque wrap the sides of it. And you know, there was a long time when I was like, oh man, eventually this is going to come off and it's going to be bad. They don't come off. They stay on there very, very strong.
Okay.
Usually I use like a hard but flexible plastic called PET G on these handles because they hold up pretty well. Got a little loop right here so you can put a string through it for the for the belt clips.
Perfect.
Yeah. But then once we have it on here, we have this little ridge right here, and that's when I make the pommel out of TPU, which just goes right there. There's also the version with the little flat piece, which is really fun.
Look at you.
Yeah. Wait, man, it makes
They're
holding
so
a down
cool.
stick so easy, because then now it flits nice and flat against the handle of the back of your shield.
Yep.
Okay.
It works out real well. And again, this is made out of TPU. And again, you can make them. Someone said like 100% infill. I don't make these with 100% infill, because then they basically are a rock, like a rock that will never break ever because it's slightly squishy. But like these have a decent amount of squish. If I bop someone over the head with it, it's actually not going to hurt. If I made it 100% infill,
It's happened to me a lot.
yeah, if you bop someone, it won't hurt that much. But if you did it with 100% infill, it would really hurt.
What do you cap that with anything when you're done, or just straight TPU?
Oh,
TPU.
just straight TPU. Now down here, notice there's this little piece right here. This piece does go below it, but actually that's because it holds this threaded bolt.
Yeah.
Right here. And honestly, what I've started using, I used to get lead from like the local recycling place.
Yeah.
And put it on here, but honestly, you know, it's a little bit more expensive. I have gone to Dick's Sporting Goods and just bought like lead tape, and man, that's so easy to use. And then you can just take it and, you know, however much weight you need, it'll slide right up into the pommel.
Oh, that's cool.
And then the pommel goes on top of that. And that ridge that you saw on the side has a matching one on the pommel. So when you put a piece of non-compressible tape around the edge, there's no way it's going to come back off.
Nice.
People have tried. They don't like it.
In fact, it so doesn't come off that if you're strong enough, you can rip the pommel off before it'll actually, you'll break the pommel before you get
Don't
it.
say you. Only Brandon can. He's the only person who's managed to. But they're very sturdy. They last on there for a long time. And then you can also, you know, take out that weight. Now, to finish it, I saw some people talking earlier about using like shrink wrap that you'd put on fishing pole handles, which I've looked.
Yeah.
Those are really cool. there's this other product. I'm trying to think of what the actual name is.
Yeah, I
What's it
love that
called?
stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
Tennis wrap. Wait, I have
it's
it. I'll put it in
something
the.
slightly different. The name's just right here. Grip stick. There we go.
Grip stick. Yep.
And it's a cold shrink wrap, but it has a way better texture than what those fishing pole things have. So and it works particularly well because I don't have to worry about my pommel. I can just take it off, but you slide it over, you pull a cord, and it's
Yep.
sturdy and on there, and it feels great. Honestly, I couldn't recommend because I don't need to put anything else on it or over it. It's a really low floor as far as just like getting stuff on there, and
It's got like a coil inside, right? Where as
yeah,
you pull it, it like shrinks, but it pulls from the
exactly.
other end.
You pull it out. And
Yeah,
then,
yeah, yeah. I've
Yeah.
seen you do like old bike handles or axe handles or all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a lot of different types of this, but yeah, this one's targeted towards sports like lacrosse and hockey and things. They're kind of expensive, but your handle, as far as things on your sword that are going to last for a long time, they last a long time.
Yeah.
And make sure you tape your sword well. Don't have any sharp edges at the tip, otherwise that's what usually causes your tip to start to fray. There's really, if anybody ever wants to see it, I can probably message it to you, but there's a super cheap and easy way to sew covers that requires so little work comparatively to trying to sew like circles. You do it with one single rectangle of fabric, goes over the tip.
It is also more sturdy than circles, so
wow.
that's a huge benefit.
That's really cool.
But yeah, my whole shtick is, man, I'm not always the most artistic or careful with things. I want a pretty foolproof plan that I'm not going to mess up because I sewed my circle on crooked or something. And yeah, heat gun if you want to, your tape after you put on your Tyvek. It'll take all those bubbles out. Bubbles cause, issues because they pop or they cause air to go out the sides. But it'll make it nice and smooth, and you won't get that weird crinkly sound that people hate so much.
Keep that gun moving though. Don't stay in the same
Yeah,
spot.
you stop for 1 second, it's gonna die. But yeah, really, that's the only real difference after, right, is the handle part, which is just a fun thing to do.
Yep. No, that's awesome, man.
Heck yeah. All right. Want to see something that's probably going to horrify you? This is how I build my sticks. Because
It's gonna be beautiful.
I build amp guard sticks and then put weights on the bottom to make them bell sticks. So handle wise, I do a just PVC, and I use Gorilla Glue to put the PVC onto, and I still use golf club shafts. Still use them. I use Gorilla Glue to put this on the golf club shafts. The whole reason that you suggested using DAP is why I don't use them for handles, because then they become like not firm on there. There's like a little bit of give to it, and when I have a little bit of give on my handle compared to, and this is a spicy blade, it's like the only open core I had, but when there's a little bit of give on it, it's not like that disruption to my swing really hurts me. So I use Gorilla Glue on there. And then that's the only glue I use in the entire sword. I use any glue anywhere else. No DAP or anything. I use these things. And this is and the reason I'm showing this is because this is stuff, if you decide to make a sword, this is something you could do at home. I use these things, the foam sheets that you can get from Walmart. They're called foamies. And I make these little things. I make my horse pill. That's what we used to call them back in the day, is a horse pill. I make 2 circles, and I make a rectangle like that. And I go, let's see, real quick. I don't know if you can see this. You have to be actually watching the stream to see this, but I take my rectangle, and I go, and I put my little horse pill right at the edge, and I go like this, and the horse pill is the exact same size as the shaft. And I roll 1 layer, just like so. And then there's my stab tip. And the reason I have that connected directly to the shaft is to prevent that blowout you were talking about. I try to make it an extension of the shaft, so it's the foam tip that's trying to squeeze out of the side of it instead of the shaft part, and it just makes it last a lot longer. And then I use olive oil, and I lube up my whole fucking shaft, which is funny to say on a stream, so that I can get one of these sticks that kind of look like an old fun noodle that's not cut in half.
Yeah.
And the reason I lube it up is because if you just try to like jam that in there, you try to get it super flush. If I try to jam this in there right now, it's all gonna rip and go to shit. If I lube it up, it'll slide right on there, and it'll just get right back. It'll just go directly on the shaft, and it'll be really fucking tight on there. And then,
Amazing.
and then I take salt, and I cover everything in salt to get all the oil off of all the surfaces. Because if you have oil on the surface, the tape won't stick to it.
Oh.
So I use salt to get all the oil off of there, and then I take foam. I take the cheapest, the absolute cheapest packing tape I can find.
This is so Amgard.
It's so
I was like, this is some old school shit. I love it.
but it's so good. My swords weigh 5 to 5.4 ounces before I put the weight in them. Like
I don't know if
weigh
salt
nothing.
takes the moisture out of olive oil.
Does
it?
Salt
Wait.
will clear off. Yes.
I feel like there's a separate. By the way, I did talk with Aaron once along to Peter, and he talked about how he deep throated to get it to go through. So I respect the game. Everyone has their own tricks, but you know what else works as a really good lubricant? DAP wood. You could just use the DAP.
But then the dap on the inside of the blade adds weight to it.
Yes.
It adds a little
Compared
How
to
much though?
olive oil.
Doesn't matter. Every ounce.
You're not
is
getting the
precious.
olive oil
If you-
out of it. The salt doesn't do that.
If you put on a pair of pants and then put on another pair of pants that had a penny in one of the pockets, are you going to notice?
Yes. When it comes.
No,
to
you
swords,
won't.
Yes.
You will not.
Every ounce matters.
Wait, but the oil isn't going to disappear. It's not just like.
It's gonna
I love
run
it.
out the edge because it's not sticky. It's gonna. You just.
So
Hold it
will
and
the
runs-
DAP.
What?
The DAP will. Wait. If you were to take that core back off and put
Yeah.
your finger in it, it would be covered in olive oil still. It's not a perfect
salt.
science. There's a reason it's a lubricant. The
And
DAP
salt.
would the DAP would also still be there, and both of them are going to have some amount of evaporation. The oil way
be.
less. Let's
Could
be
be.
fair. And when the DAP evaporates, the water in it, then it's just stuck on there.
This is why you're a mad scientist and I'm not. All right, I'm a backyard.
I respect
out of
the
the two
game.
of us
I've done
right
some
now-
weird stuff. I respect the game.
This just goes to show everyone here too that even if you don't make a perfect sword, you can still make a good, perfectly safe sword. Even
Why
if
is my sword the one that's not perfect? That's what I.
Well, maybe he was talking about
This
ours.
is
You don't
great.
know.
This is
How are you
honestly, this is
implying that it
better than
had
a
to be
sword that I
yours?
would make. Like 100%. I did not know that all of your swords had olive oil in this,
If
though I
olive
love
oil.
this so much.
Well, vegetable oil. Olive oil is a little expensive, but
I still
vegetable-
don't know if you're fucking with me or not.
I'm not fucking.
Oh,
I
he's
really do
not.
this. This is a thing
Wait.
I really do.
Somebody did ask, like, does every ounce matter if you're adding weight at the end?
Yes.
Anyways, it's very important to note. It's more. This is less about every ounce, and this is more where the ounce is. Right? An ounce in the tip of your blade is bad. An ounce in the pommel of your blade, for the right reasons, is good.
I use tungsten weights from what's it called? Pinewood Derby.
Coward,
Yeah.
not using toxic materials like the rest of us. Come on.
About a year ago, Misty was talking about doing
Yes,
that.
that's where I got it
Yeah.
from. Is Misty? Thank you,
Oh,
Misty.
they work really good.
They're
They're just really tungsten's so expensive.
Yes, it's about $50 for a sword, but you
And
can
if they're-
use it from sword to sword.
And if they're wrong, there's nothing you can do about it.
That is correct.
So you gotta make sure you order the right stuff.
Just put the lead weight inside of it, then it just goes away. It's night night, no more.
And to finish this up, then I do
Yeah.
on the blade I do tape all the way down, and you gotta do the torque rat tape. There's like a whole technique that I'm not gonna go into because we're running out
Sure.
of time. It's a great forearm exercise. You torque wrap the blade down after you shave the base, and then you go tape all the way up like this, 3 times, bloop bloop bloop. Then you add your 2 circles on top, 1, 2. so that you have this plunger with these 2 circles. That's your stab tip. And then you do another tape just over the top. 1, 2, 3. Tape once around, and you have a 5.2 ounce bat that then you add a whole, you add 6.5 ounces of tungsten to the pommel, and then you're good to go.
Cool.
Old
Is
tech,
that one of the
old
tubes
school.
Dyer was selling for a while?
Say again.
Is that one of the tubes Dyer was selling for a while?
Yes. This is like the last remaining Dyer foam, which is it breaks down really, really fast. It breaks down too fast, I think, which is why he changed the formula. It is really, really light though, so that part's pretty cool. We are running out of time here, so
Sorry.
we're gonna go. Oh, there's no apologies. It's been a great show.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes, I only use the sticky back foamies combined with this portion of the plunger, which is all foam, and those stab tips, strangely enough, will last way past the length, the blade life of the sword. The stab tips will still be good. They'll only last like you should still change them out, but it's not the tip that's going to go bad. Let's talk tech, and I want to start with glass. This is your forum to just talk about whatever weird sword or weapon tech in general that you'd like to showcase for everybody.
Oh man, it's a broad subject. I like making a lot of random things. Arrows are great. Arrows are the best thing, guys. The only reason, if you have ever asked me why I don't have the arrows online like I have all my swords and things, is because I certainly am much more nervous about putting arrows on there, because arrows are real weapons, and not everyone has as much experience with 3D printing, especially these specialty materials. But one thing that I can say, especially if you're trying to design your own, square blunts are definitely the way to go. And I'm going to share my screen again really quick, Dana.
Yes.
There's a website called Send Cut Send, and they basically will CNC things for you. And one thing you can do, which was like an amazing thing that I found out, was I made this little cutout thing right here. And if you upload it, notice it has these holes, they will actually can put different kind of hardware in it. So I have a bunch of these. Are they in here? They are. It was like $30 and I got like a lot of them. But these little, so they're square at the end. This is like a special type of rivet. It's never coming out, but it has the threading on it that, standard arrow inserts use. And like I literally print my TPU cans, drop these in, and then keep printing. So they're enclosed inside of the shaft. They're never going anywhere. And this is the key to not having like the spinning issue where like with other round pennies at the end of modular arrows where they'll come off. Like that's usually the failure point. That'd be the best thing I could say if you're trying to do it. Outside of that, crossbows. Brandon mentioned it earlier. There's been a lot of fun tournaments with crossbows. Crossbows are terrifying. Crossbow rules probably need to be changed because I don't think a lot of people really recognize. Listen, I've had some people be like, nah, the crossbow rules are fine. And then I shoot them with my crossbow and they're like, man, the rules aren't fine. We need to figure something out. Like, there's so many ways to game the system with those crossbows, and the rules they have, especially with like distance and poundage, is terrifying. But all that being said, you can have a lot of fun with crossbows, and I spent a lot of time like making modifications for the crossbows so that like you can have them clipped onto you, have extra bolts, and I wanted to make as much as I could start from finish. Some of you might have seen the thing from Fitzcallison, who's farther west, but he has like a repeating crossbow, and I have some things in my garage where I'm putting that together. It's going to happen one of these days. It's going to be a fun time because it's going to be for Bell. It's going to be great. I always have one. I run out of ideas for cool, nifty things every once in a while. When I come up with a new one, it's going to happen. What else is there? The axe is cool. Arrow clips are great, just to carry your arrows around. Man, someday I'm gonna make an arrowhead completely out of TPU, except for like a little bit of open cell at the end, because then it would be illegal, and we don't want that. I mean, I think a lot of the tech changes that are going to happen to, like, things that are going to change, I feel like we're getting really close to where there's, and somebody talked about earlier, like different ways to change red rules and things. Like, I think we're getting to a point where we're going to have some sort of changing in the rules around, longer reds, around, even spears. And I don't know what that looks like. That's not really my forte. I'm just going to try and make the world work with. I'm going to try and make stuff that works in their world, not try and change anything. But I think that will be when you see the next like really big changes in tech. Because I mean, from the stuff I have available to me and the things I see, like we're getting to a point where we can't get materials that are super much lighter unless you're willing to spend like hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a like a meta material that is not easy to get. But everything else, like, we have some really cool stuff out there. And I guess I just encourage people, like, that shoulder clip is a blast. We have it like over here. This one you could technically build with everything at a hardware store. It'd just be really tricky. But like, you just strap that onto your forearm. And when it's strapped onto your forearm, let me find out which way to do it from here. You can just turn it and it comes off. Notice this is also a Gorg shield because he makes smaller handles than Forged Foam did, and it works great. I'm very happy with it. But yeah, that's a fun little tech thing that, man, if anyone ever wants to use it, I always have two with me at events. Really, I'll let anybody use anything if you find me. This is, a challenge. I like talking about the stuff even more than using it.
Did you see that Monkey from AmpGuard has access
did.
now and is selling? I'll tell everybody at home. Is now selling the fiberglass cores that have a natural curve to them.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's neat.
They're really cool. I'm trying to think of something to do with that would not be, already kind of done. Like I've seen like the tennis racket curved things.
Yeah.
It seems it's kind of like what we talked about earlier with the scythe, that if you successfully did it, it'd probably be really dangerous.
Right.
Like, because you're not going to use it curved the other way. Everyone's going to use it curved toward, like, the effective way to theoretically use that, right, would be a curve towards the person, in which you got a pretty big lever there. I'm really excited to see what might happen. And, I might get one. I've had this horse. I've been pretty busy lately with stuff, so I haven't had a lot of, other than, little projects here and there. I haven't had a lot of time to work on a lot of things, such as getting a new core to do it, and I have the crossbow. The crossbow is definitely higher up on the fun things to do. But the core seemed cool. I just don't know what I'd do with it right now. Someone talked about you're making a flail head out of TPU. See, that's in general where I get the itch of, a weapons checker versus, a person opposed with who likes to build stuff.
They're making a flail out of the curved blade.
See, that's a fun route to take. Though making a flail head out of TPU would probably be amazing.
Yeah,
but
show them
probably
the
not
axe.
legal. Oh yeah, I mean, I think we showed them the axe earlier.
We showed talk about the axe.
If I were to make a flail head out of this, it'd probably be, because it's very light, but the air would pass through it really easy, so it hit solidly, but it also would that would be really interesting. But again, that's legally, it's not foam. Though technically foam is just, blown plastic, but
right.
I feel like if I walked up to a weapons checker and I'd like, come on, all, soft flexible plastics are just foam in disguise, they'd be like, get out of here.
Yeah.
What if you did like you did there, where like 80% of the core of it is TPU, and then you like skinned it with 1/8-inch, 1/4-inch. You know what I mean?
And
yeah,
I'm sure I'm sure I could get it passed, right?
Yeah.
Just when you look at it technically, right, all flails are supposed to be coreless, and what does that really mean? Is that actually a physical, like, core as in a rigid material? I've done a lot of things that didn't end up passing for various reasons, like Brandon's flat blade that he has. Pretty skeptical, but it's passed and it's doing awesome. But
Wait, why are you skeptical? What did you do with
Don't
that
worry
one?
about it.
I
Don't
hit
worry
people
about
with that.
It passes. It's totally legal.
There's a thermonuclear
I hit
device
Frosty
just
with that, and
buried
he
in the
told
hill.
me I shouldn't use it because it hits too hard.
Everyone knows Frosty's just a big baby. Come on, everyone knows that about him.
I hit him in the wrist and I instantly gave him
He's
a
like,
bruise.
"What's
Also,
wrong
if
with
you
my
ever want to
flat blade?"
test weapons, give them to me. Forged Foam does it. Glass does it too. I break everything.
And you
So-
haven't broken that flat blade, which is really the most astounding part. That's
Yeah.
It's got a capsule
I
of
did it.
acid in the handle, and so you're gonna hit somebody, and it's gonna break, and it's gonna burn your hand off.
it's got a literal shot clock. Like at X amount of shots, it explodes, and that's keeps things interesting. But yeah, man, I would encourage it. You can get a pretty cheap 3D printer nowadays. Like
Oh, yeah.
really, if this stuff
Yeah.
is interesting for you, and pretty cheap 3D printers that can do a lot of things with a lot of materials. Man, the world's your oyster. I've made so many things for Belagarth. If you want to be a mad scientist,
Heck
the
yeah.
first step is a 3D printer. You don't have to have one, but man, it makes things easier.
Yeah.
I want to thank our two guests. We've got Sir Gorg and Sir Glass. Gorg, go ahead and promote the shop. Let's say I want to buy a Gorg blade. How do I go about that?
Two different ways to get there. You could go to gorgtech.com, GORGTECH, or gorgtheblacksmith.com. We're also on Facebook. We do a lot of our, new things coming out, places we'll be, things like that are more kept up with on Facebook since it's immediate. And then on the website, you can get part of the, I don't know if we use MailChimp, but same idea. If we have sales and things, you can get them emailed to you and things like that.
Awesome.
The only other thing I'd like to promote is I'm starting a Thieves Guild in Belagarth. I've gotten really, really good at lockpicking, and there's a way to progress through it like a karate belt system. And I'm going to theme that out for Belagarth and all the different people that are interested. I'm going to be doing that pretty soon.
Awesome. Sounds
I
fun.
like
really
to pick
cool.
locks.
Glass, you got anything to promote?
Oh no,
Not today.
I'd make it a point not to sell things, man. Just find me, and we'll build beautiful things together. If you ever want to come to Champaign.
Sounds like a plan, man. Thank you to our two guests. Let's talk about Horace. Our next show, I think we're doing. Did I forget to put it on my calendar? What are we doing next? I don't know that we have the next show scheduled yet, so that's something that I probably need to figure out. But we're gonna do something fun, probably. we did
It's
get on the
always fun.
books. May 22nd. We're going to do an Armageddon episode. We're going to talk about the history of Armageddon. We're going to have two people that are running games at Armageddon to explain the rules and that kind of stuff. So I think that'll be a pretty sweet episode. Jump on the so you guys at home, jump on the Bench Facebook page and post what you think you'd like to see on some episodes. I think that'd be pretty fun. They'd like to see Horace do a backflip. That could be an episode.
I can't do that.
Thank you guys. Really appreciate you tuning in the show. We're going to do some hell diving. Until next time, be yourself. Don't hide. Catch you later.
Another memory of you, right from the picture. in time.